What is up, Dragon? It's your boy Starbound here, and welcome back to another video on the channel. In this video, I'll be teaching you guys how to play my homemade TCG Parallel Legends. As you can tell, Parallel Legends has actually been remade, and some of the rules have changed, so I decided to make another video so you guys can know how to play the new version of Parallel Legends, since y'all seem to really like the old version of Parallel Legends. So without further ado, let's start. So first, we're going to be going over the basic terms and types of cards that are in the game. There are 5 different card types in Parallel Legends. In the old Parallel Legends, used to be 6. The 6th one was, there actually used to be 7. The 6th and 7th were Unleash cards and one-time equip cards, but I removed those 2. So basically, the first and the most important type of cards are your Legend cards. Your Legend cards are the cards you will be summoning to the field to do battle and deal damage to your opponent. Legend cards will be specified by this little L in the corner. Our second type of card is our spell cards, which is pretty self-explanatory. Spell cards can be casted during your turn or your opponent's turn. You just have to read what it says here, like the condition. And so this says if you have a noble weapon equipped to draw a card and gain a star, so it would normally be cast on your turn. Spell cards are indicated by the little S in the top corner. We have equipped cards, which are symbolized by the little E in the corner, and they are basically weapons that you can equip to yourself. They have power, but they don't have defense. And they can be destroyed by card effects, and they can attack your opponent directly and attack their monsters as well, but you can only have one equipped card equipped at a time. Next up, we have our arenas, which are cards that you can set in your arena zone, and then reading its effect, cards on your wormhole, which is what your field is called, will gain the effect like all Uncharted cards on your wormhole gain 100% 100 attack. So if you were to play this, then the effect says all Uncharted cards on your wormhole gain plus 100 attack. Arena cards are symbolized by this little A in the top right corner. Next up, we have parallel cards. Parallel cards are very important in decks. There are multiple types of parallel cards. Parallel cards will usually be all elements. They're symbolized by this P or PS or PL, depending on what type of parallel card it is. And the main parallel card is Parallel Cross. This basically allows you to parallel cross 2 more monsters, which will be explained later on in the video. And we have parallel spells, parallel legends. Parallel spells and parallel legends will be the only parallels in set 1. Next up, we will be talking about elements. Elements are just there to classify cards. You may want to build decks around like a certain element or certain 3 elements since they work well together. But elements basically are just classifications. They don't really do anything besides a card effect. So we have the basic elements we have here are Thunder, which is symbolized by this little thunderbolt right here. We have Light element, which is symbolized by this little sun-looking thing right here. We have Water, which is symbolized by this raindrop right here. We have Darkness, which is kind of like the light elements thing, but it is just a black circle. We have Fire, which is symbolized by this little flame right here. Nature, which is symbolized by this little leaf. And Galaxy, which is symbolized by this little vortex looking thing. All cards will have elements, not just legend cards, no matter what. Next up, we'll be talking about your deck, which will probably be the shortest segment of the video. Your deck can be made up of a minimum of 32 cards and a maximum of 64 cards. You can have up to 3 copies of one card in your deck, and your deck is made out of all types of cards and all elements of cards. Next up, we're talking about our wormhole, which is your field. So here we have our spell/parallel spell zone, our item, which is where you would put the items that you have equipped, our deck zone, our Nova, which is basically the drop zone of the game. So when a card is destroyed, it would go to the Nova. We have 3 legend zones right here. We have our parallel deck, which will be explained later. This is basically where your parallel cards go. We have our arena zone, and here we have our star zone. The star zone is where your stars would go. Stars in this game are basically like coins. So you can use them to summon legends depending on their level. Now, setting up the game is pretty simple. So you take your deck, and first off, you will take out the parallel cards that are in your deck. Here you can see I only have 2 parallel cards because we have a parallel legend, King Claw, and a parallel spell, which is Come Forth Legend. Parallel Cross, despite being a parallel cross, actually goes into your main deck and not into your parallel deck. So we would take our 2 parallel cards right here, place them in the parallel deck zone. After doing that, we'll take our stars and place our stars in the star zone right over there. It doesn't matter if they don't have to fit perfectly as long as they're remotely close to the star zone, then they're good. So now we're going to take our deck of cards and shuffle them up. After shuffling our deck up, we will put our deck in the deck zone, obviously. Once both you and your opponent have both done this, you are ready to start the game. So before we even decide who's going first, each player will take 5 stars to start off with. And 5. So now you can decide who goes first, and so on and so forth. So to begin the game, you draw 5 cards. Say I'm going first. During the first turn, I cannot draw, and that's 5 cards. Here, for this example, I have made a very Nova weapon based deck, which is what my hand is all Nova weapons. So it's my first turn, so I'm going to look through the cards. So say I'm going to equip here, Nova weapon, falls 4. It's an equipped card, and right here it says a 2 right here. So when I attack my opponent, this will do 2 damage to them. We each start off with 10 life unless some card or thing allows you to do otherwise. But since this is 2 damage, it actually also costs 2 stars for me to equip. So say I'm going to equip Nova Weapon falls 4 from my hand. So I'll take 2 stars and put them over there. The first player also cannot star. So the first player can't draw and they cannot gain a star on their first turn. So we pay 2 stars. We will now equip Nova Weapon falls 4. Looking at our hand, that seems like all we can do for now. So now we would go on to our battle phase. We can only attack once. During this phase. So we would switch this card to this position to signal an attack, and our opponent would either take damage or cast a spell to do whatever. Now say we're going second, so just like the first player, before we start our turn, we will start off with 5 stars. 5 stars right there, and we will draw 5 cards. 5. Since we're going second and now it's our turn, we will do our draw phase. So during our draw phase, we draw a card. Next up is our star phase. We take 1 star from the middle to put in our star pile. And now it is our main phase. Our main phase is where we can cast spells and summon legends and equip items, place arenas, and stuff like that. We have a pretty decent hand here. So say we wanted to cast a spell like Reach for the Stars. It costs 1 star. Since the spell doesn't even do damage, it costs 1 star, and we can collect 2 stars and can only use 1 turn. So we would cast Reach for the Stars, pay 1 star to gain 2 stars. So we would gain 2 stars right there. And since this spell is used, we will send it to the Nova right there. And then now say we wanted to cast a spell like Summon Uncharted. It has a 0 right here, so this costs 0 stars. So we're gonna cast Summon Uncharted. And its effect is add 1 water element card from your deck to your hand and shuffle your deck. So we will go in our deck and search our deck for a water element card. So we can add Unstoppable Rain. And then after we add Unstoppable Rain to our deck, we will shuffle our deck. After shuffling our deck, putting it back, we go back to our hand and say, let's see here, let's say we are gonna summon our Flare Kingdom Knight Arico, which is a legend and costs 3 stars. So we're gonna pay 3 stars, put them back in the star zone to pay, and we will call to the center, not to the center, we will call over here Flare Kingdom Knight Arico. And oh, before I forget, once we cast the spell, we have to send it to the Nova or our drop. And we can now declare our battle phase. Our battle phase is exactly what it sounds like, where you can battle with your opponent's legends or deal them direct damage. You can only deal your opponent direct damage if their field is empty. They have no legends on their field. So say if they had a legend on their field, we would have to attack that legend to get it out. So they have no legend on their field. So say so here our opponent has a Flame Guard on their field. So their Flame Guard has a defense of 300, but our Flare Kingdom Knight Arico has a power of 500. So his power is bigger than our opponent's Flare Kingdom's, our opponent's Flame Guard's defense. So we would attack their card, and it would be sent to their Nova unless they use a spell or something, or an effect allows it not to be destroyed. And after that, we can a field would be cleared, and we could try to attack them again if we had another legend on the field. After doing that, we have a second main phase where we can cast spells, but we can't summon cast spells, but we cannot summon any legends. You can summon only one legend, one legend per turn. So if we had any spells we wanted to cast, we could cast them right now. We don't have any spells to cast here. Actually, we do. So we can cast Flare Kingdom Name, which allows us to draw 1 card and collect 1 star. So we'll cast it using 1 star, draw a card, and gain a star. And after that, we would end our turn and give our opponent their turn. Here I have set up a scenario that would allow us to parallel summon a parallel legend from our parallel zone. So we have 2 legends on the field, and we have Parallel Cross in our hand. So we're Parallel Cross cost 1 star, and it says Parallel Cross 2 or more legends on your wormhole. So here we're going to Parallel Cross, pay 1 star. So now we would take the 2 cards we wanted to parallel cross. So we're gonna take these 2 cards that we have on our field right here. We're gonna send them to the Nova. Search through our parallel deck for a parallel legend that we want to summon. It says takes 2 legend to parallel summon once per turn, deal 1 damage to your opponent. So we did parallel summon parallel cross 2 legends so we can play him. So we will parallel summon him over here. And as you can see here, we have successfully done a parallel summon. Parallel cards cannot deal damage to your opponent since they don't they'll always have an equal sign here. They don't cost stars. Well, most of them don't cost stars, but they cannot deal damage to your opponent by direct attack. Since they are so powerful and in terms of attack and defense, I thought it would only be fair to not let them be able to attack your opponent directly. So we could use his effect to deal 1 damage to our opponent, and then we can go to our battle phase and battle. Next up, I have set up a scenario where we can parallel cast a parallel spell. So here we're going to cast Parallel Cross, but instead of parallel crossing two legends, we're gonna select two spells from our hands. We'll select Summon Uncharted and Reach from the Star for stars. Pay 1 coin. Send these two to the Nova. Send Parallel Cross to the Nova. Search our parallel deck for parallel spell, which is Come Forth Legend, and take it and put our parallel zone back. So we now have this in our hand. So it costs two stars. So we can cast this right here. Pay 2 stars. 1, 2. Pay 2 stars and use its effect, which is takes 2 spells parallel cast. If your opponent has more hand cards than you do, search deck for a legend and summon it at no cost. So say we'll search our deck for a legend that we can summon. And say we want to summon, let's see here, the Uncharted Phantom, and we'll summon him right here. And then like any normal spell would, just like any normal spell would work, we will then send this to our Nova since we have used it. And that was our basic overview on how to play my homemade TCG Parallel Legends. Thank you guys so much for the support on the channel. I know I haven't been posting a lot, I haven't been uploading a lot, but thank you guys for your continued support, and tell me in the comment section below if you want to see more Parallel Legends homemade TCG videos and what you think about it. So that's it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.